virus that a couple of years ago in 2005 was a big concern and has been sort of slowly migrating around, usually transmitted from birds to people. And what they did was they gave it to ferrets, which have a very similar sort of immune system and lungs to humans, and passed it through a few generations looking at the mutations that occur. And they identified about 5 different mutations that we've seen in nature before, but when all 5 of those mutations are present, it was easily transmissible from one ferret to another, and they reported then that it makes sense that it would be transmissible from person to person as well, and that version of the virus is pretty dangerous and potentially fatal. So theoretically speaking, it could present a danger, but this is all part of a program to understand the influenza virus, and in order so that we can prevent through public health measures and vaccination, the kind of scenario you're describing.
Speak to us about these mutations. What kinds are we talking about here?
So the part of the influenza virus.
It has now been revealed that researchers in the Netherlands have created a virus in their labs that could potentially wipe out half the human race. Joining us now is Dr. Barry Pakes from the Dell Atlanta School of Public Health at the University of Toronto. Doctor, I'm just a lay guy. I hear this. I feel kind of alarmed at this. What's your reaction to this?
I'm not sure that's something that a line that the researchers themselves would have come to that conclusion in their research. I think it's a bit of hyperbole or a bit of exaggeration.
Oh, okay. Well, straighten us out
when
here.
We're interpreting the work that they're doing, I think it's important to look at the research question that they were actually asking, which was, what are the things that make this virus more contagious? What are the things that make the influenza virus more dangerous? And they asked that question. They looked at some of the things in nature, like passing through animals like a ferret, that can make things more dangerous in terms of influenza, and I don't think it poses a significant risk to us right now.
Well, you're reassuring me. Thank you for that. If we can start from the beginning of this research, then they took a virus that was in general circulation last year. Is that correct?
It's an H5N1 virus. My understanding, it's the avian flu virus that a couple of years ago in 2005 was a big concern and has been sort of slowly migrating around, usually transmitted from birds to people. And what they did was they gave it to ferrets, which have a very similar sort of immune system and lungs to humans, and passed it through a few generations looking at the mutations that occur. And they identified about 5 different mutations that we've seen in nature before, but when all 5 of those mutations are present, it was easily transmissible from one ferret to another, and they reported then that it makes sense that it would be transmissible from person to person as well, and that version of the virus is pretty dangerous and potentially fatal. So theoretically speaking, it could present a danger, but this is all part of a program to understand the influenza virus, and in order so that we can prevent through public health measures and vaccination, the kind of scenario you're describing.
Speak to us about these mutations. What kinds are we talking about here?
So the part of the influenza virus that's usually the most interesting for scientists and for public health folks is something called hemagglutinin. It's one of these proteins on the outside of the virus that determines what kind of species it infects. So we hear about avian flu, swine flu, human flu, and the reasons that these infect different species is because of this little hemagglutinin protein that binds to different types of receptors in different species' lungs, and it binds in different places. So sometimes it binds in the upper lungs or in the throat or the nose, which makes it more contagious, and other times it binds more deeply in the lungs, which makes it more deadly. And it's when you get a combination of those factors that you can get some worrisome virus combinations, and those change every year. So that's why we need to get the flu shot again and again every year, because each year these are slightly different, and the scientists that make the vaccine tailor that vaccine to every new virus every year.
So the fact then that they have essentially they've speeded up nature here, have they? Is that what they've done? They've taken
exactly. They passed it through 10.
They've speeded up nature here, have they? Is that what they've done? They've taken
exactly. They passed it through 10 generations of
So what does this
ferrets.
tell them?
So it's sort of
how
like
does this help
10
us?
seasons very quickly.
So how does this help us, sir?
Well, it helps us by understanding that, answering the question of, can this happen in nature? Well, the answer is yes, it can happen. You need a whole bunch of things to happen at the same time, but passing through 10 generations, it can in fact happen in nature. And it gives us a little bit more information to be a little bit more prepared for a future pandemic. For the past almost 10 years now, we've been awaiting the next pandemic. We've had sort of different viruses, the swine flu, the avian flu, that we've been worried about. Thankfully, through our efforts and through a luck in nature, those haven't turned out to be particularly deadly planet-wide. But it's something we really need to be vigilant about, and this is one small piece of the puzzle.
Dr. Barry Pakes from the Dalla Lana School of Public Health at the University of Toronto. Good to see you, sir. Thank you.
Thank you.